Welcome to The Explainer. Tonight, I actually want you to do something a little different with me. I want you to just imagine a dark, stormy night. You know the kind. The rain is just absolutely coming down in sheets, thunder's rolling somewhere off in the distance, and you are entirely, undeniably, alone. Today, we're exploring 3 documented, true accounts from people who found out exactly what happens when the isolation of a bad storm brings out something, well, far worse than just bad weather. So let's dive into this. But, maybe keep your voice down.
Go ahead and turn off the lights, seriously, and just listen to the rain for a second. Let that atmospheric dread really settle in, right? Because our first account actually takes us to a night exactly like that, back in 2004. The narrator was just enjoying a few rare days off work and relaxing out on their front porch in this small, super quiet town. It was pouring outside. And heavy rain on a quiet night usually has a way of bringing this profound sense of peace. There were almost no lights on in the entire neighborhood. They literally felt like the only person still awake in the whole world. But as you'll see, that peaceful isolation was about to be violently shattered. Now, I want you to notice the slow, creeping escalation of unease here. It's like a pot slowly coming to a boil. At exactly 10 p.m., the landline inside the house rings. It's an unknown caller ID, so, our narrator just ignores it. It's just a number, right? They head out to the porch. But then, at 10 o'clock, the sudden, inexplicable mood shift happens. A really dark, heavy gut feeling starts leaning over. Suddenly, the darkness stops feeling calming and starts feeling honestly profoundly creepy. By 10:35, the feeling is so overwhelming they actually retreat inside and lock the door. Then, the phone rings again. Same unknown caller. Ignored again. And then, at 11 p.m., the storm outside is just absolutely raging, and heavy knocks suddenly hit the front door. Our narrator creeps up to the peephole. It's totally fogged up from the storm, but they can clearly make out a man. He's dressed in all black, hood up, wearing a mask, and he's leaning in like he's trying to listen to the inside of the house. Obviously, our narrator immediately grabs the wired home phone in the hallway and dials 911, frantically turning the receiver volume all the way down so the masked man can't hear. But before they can even speak to the operator, a loud metallic slam hits the front door. It isn't a knock, it's a tool. The door visibly shifts an entire inch out of the frame. Our narrator has literally only seconds, so they duck into the nearby hallway bathroom to hide. 10 seconds later, the front door is forced completely open, the roar of the rain just floods into the house. And then, a full minute of agonizing, dead silence. Nothing but thunder and rain. Finally, the silence breaks, and honestly, this is the most terrifying part. The narrator hears the intruder's boots moving down the hallway, slowly, calmly. It's like he thinks absolutely no one knows he's there. He walks right past the bathroom door, goes upstairs, and the footsteps just fade into the carpet. 15 minutes. Just think about how long 15 minutes feels when you are trapped in a pitch-dark bathroom, absolutely terrified to even breathe. Every single time the narrator even thinks about moving to the phone, they just freeze. They're completely paralyzed by the thought that this man in black might be standing right at the bottom of the stairs, just waiting in the dark. Finally, a radio chatter breaks through the sound of the rain outside. It's the police. They were responding to that silent 911 dial for a welfare check. The police hurry downstairs, and then they head up to the The intruder had absolutely no idea. When the officers entered the main bedroom, they found the masked man just laying on the narrator's bed, completely relaxed. He had actually set a knife and a gun down on the dresser, just making himself right at home. The reality of what they found is terrifying enough for sure. But consider the dark alternative here. What if the narrator hadn't trusted that gut feeling out on the porch? What if they had answered that unknown call to confirm someone was home? Or worse, what if they had opened the door? The margin between life and death that night was just razor thin. Okay, moving to our second account, which begins with this really eerie, false sense of security. Imagine waking up in a completely empty house. Your mom is away on her quarterly work trip. It's a gloomy Saturday afternoon, the rain is just pouring heavily outside, and you've fallen asleep on the downstairs couch. You slowly wake up in the dim light, but you don't wake up to the sound of thunder. No, you wake up to the sound of someone whistling. Just a soft tone, getting closer and closer, until it stops right outside your front door. What starts as a bizarre daytime encounter slowly twists into a literal midnight nightmare. Let's look at the timeline. At 2 p.m., the teenager looks out the window and sees a drenched man in a denim jacket just standing on the porch. He doesn't knock, he doesn't ring the doorbell. For 5 full minutes, he literally just stands there, staring blankly at the front door. Eventually, he wanders off into the rain, still whistling. The teen tries to brush it off, spending the evening upstairs playing PC games with friends to distract themselves. At 1 a.m., they finally log off and go to sleep. But then, at 2 a.m., they are violently jolted awake by a loud, hollow thump right next to their head. Someone is throwing rocks at their second-story bedroom window. The teen carefully peers through the curtain and sees that same drenched figure standing below, hurling objects at the glass. So, entirely by adrenaline, the teenager decides to sneak downstairs to a side room. They want to snap a picture of the guy before he runs off. But as they hold their phone up to the dark glass, a horrifying realization washes over them. The thumping against the upstairs window, it stopped. The outside is completely dead silent. Then, out of nowhere, a figure rushes out of the darkness and slams into the downstairs window, literally just 1 foot away from the teen's face. The glass cracks. The teen scrambles backward as the man completely shatters the window. And then, creeping through the broken glass, a dark, gravelly voice starts calling out into the house. "Hello? Hello?" The teenager immediately calls 911 from the living room, watching in horror as the intruder literally tries to force his way in. Luckily, the police arrive incredibly fast, and the man bolts into the wooded area behind the neighborhood, completely disappearing into the storm. This just absolutely highlights the sheer terrifying unpredictability of a stalker. I mean, consider the dark alternative here. If the teenager had retreated back upstairs when the glass broke, they would have had absolutely zero route of escape if the man had fully breached that first floor. Going downstairs for a picture was a massive, massive risk. But ironically, it placed them right next to the front door and the phone, which kept them from being cornered on the second floor. For our third and final account, we step into a setting of just pure isolation. A small hotel on the very edge of the town. It's literally the last building before the road gives way to miles of empty, pitch-dark fields. Our narrator here is the night shift security guard. At 10 p.m., a massive storm is raging when a young woman, maybe 25 years old, walks through the front doors. She doesn't have any luggage, just a small purse. She looks utterly exhausted, soaking wet, and clearly desperate for sleep. She checks in and disappears to her room, and she never returns for any bags. Fast forward to midnight. The guard is pacing by the front doors when a man emerges from the dark parking lot, walking straight through the He's got this incredibly creepy, sickly look on his face. The man stops right in front of the guard, and his eyes immediately go on. He asks how late the place is open. The guard points to the 24-hour sign. Then the man asks, "Are you guys always here this late?" He's probing. He's testing the defenses, trying to figure out if security is posted at the door all night long. After getting his answer, the man turns and just vanishes back into the rainy darkness. Now, the guard knows something is very wrong, but the storm is heavily limiting his patrols. 2 incredibly tense hours pass. It's now 2 a.m. The guard takes a brief walk to the side of the building, and when he turns back, he spots the sickly man slipping quickly through the front doors of the hotel. The guard rushes inside, but the lobby is empty. The receptionist tells him the man just came in, claimed he needed a spare key for his so-called wife's room, completely brushed off her request for an ID, and marched straight for the stairs. The guard sprints up to the second floor. As he throws open the stairwell door, he finds the man standing outside a room, violently banging on the cheap hotel door. And in the man's hand, a massive hunting knife. The guard immediately draws his weapon, screaming for the man to drop the knife. The man turns around. His eyes are wide, bloodshot, looking absolutely enraged. He's visibly debating whether or not to charge. Finally, he drops the weapon. The police arrive and reveal the terrifying truth. That woman inside, she wasn't his wife. She was fleeing from him. He had tracked her to the hotel and stood out in the freezing storm for 4 straight hours, just watching the guard wait for his one single moment to strike. Think about the dark alternative. That door was cheap. It was literally giving way. If the guard had arrived even 30 seconds later, that crazed man with a hunting knife would have already been inside her room. 3 storms. 3 dark nights. 3 incredibly fragile barriers between the safety of a lit room and the absolute terror just outside. So as we close out this experiment, I want you to just listen closely to the sounds outside your own window right now. The wind, the dead silence. It kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? Are your doors locked tonight?